up, buddy?
I'm actually just thinking, am I going to be able to corral any of these Missouri players? No, I'm not thinking about Missouri at all. Nope. Actually, yeah. I find one of my favorite things about coming here is, aside from obviously getting to see so many friends and colleagues who maybe sometimes we only see at a stadium or at this, is I actually do like getting to talk to the players who we most of the time otherwise may never ever meet or talk to and find out interesting stories. Like, I just think throughout the years, even last year, a guy like Velus Jones from Tennessee really stood out. I had a great conversation with him. There was one. It was a year we were here in Atlanta. Do you remember this? There was a kid from a guy from Arkansas. It was like his family were like Vikings. Do you remember that guy?
What?
Yeah. See, this is why you got to do the other team player interviews and you read their bios and you learn about them, and you get really interesting stuff, dude.
I think you made that part up.
I'm finding that you keep talking. I'm finding this guy.
Hey, tell me what kind of fit Brian Kelly is for the LSU. We were just sitting here, and you said that the most common thing you've been asked is what kind of fit is Brian Kelly. Well, he's the all-time winningest coach in Notre Dame history. That makes him a good fit, right?
He's also the winningest active coach in college football. I mean, he's won everywhere he's been.
You got to help me with that. How does that – I can't make that record with Nick Saban's record work.
Because there were games that I think there were, like, if you count on field, I think there were games that he had to –
something got vacated somewhere along the way.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to – that sort of thing.
Dirty cheaters.
Some Cincinnati games or something, maybe some at Notre Dame that they vacated. But on field, winningest active coach in college football. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, when you look at Baton Rouge and LSU, Skip Bertman was a Jewish guy from Detroit who lived in Miami. Dale Brown was from Minot, North Dakota. Nick Saban spent his whole life – he was a Midwestern guy. They're the winningest coaches LSU's ever produced in collectively in sports. Like, and Skip Bertman stayed. Dale Brown stays and lived his whole life in Baton Rouge now. It's like, just win. Just go win.
Do you remember the guy that you did an interview with in October last year, kind of leading into the Ole Miss LSU game after it had been announced that Ed Ogeron was going to step down, that suggested that Brian Kelly should be the next head football coach at LSU?
No. But I don't remember anything, really.
I think his name was Richard.
The days are a blur.
The guy's very humble. I know that guy.
But good call. Good call.
But for all of the reasons that you just said, that's why it made sense to me then.
I was first.
Or maybe just I knew a guy.
Maybe you did. I was first made aware. Did you? Because I was first made aware.
Emerald was the source.
That.
Bam!
I was first made aware that LSU was even talking to Brian Kelly because Notre Dame and LSU were both recruiting a player, and the player ended up picking LSU, and I know the player's dad well, and when they went on their visit to Notre Dame, they talked about LSU having contacted Brian Kelly. So that was sometime in that mix that it was at least a conversation. But at that time, Brian Kelly was not leaving. Like, he was content to stay at Notre Dame, but I think you throw $100 million on the table and the allure of actually having a chance to win a national championship pulled him away. So we'll see if he can.
So let's reverse the question then. Is this LSU team a fit for Brian Kelly?
You mean this current roster?
This current roster, yeah.
So I have no idea, and that's not a cop-out answer, but remember when they played the bowl game, LSU – well, you won't remember this because why would anybody watch a Texas Bowl with a 6-6 LSU team against Kansas State?
Hey, Dad,
I watched it.
Well, good for you.
I'm a sicko.
You're a sicko, degenerate, or you're a gambler, either way. But anyway, LSU had 39 scholarship players for that. Yeah. Ed Ogeron left a mess. So Brian Kelly had to go do kind of what Mel Tucker did at Michigan State. If you remember that Michigan State team, he had like 20 transfers on the team. The whole team was just made up of transfers. Brian Kelly had 17 mid-year enrollees, 15 transfers. I mean, it's stunning the amount of talent they had to go find just to have a competent roster. Now, guys that have characteristics he likes, a lot of them were guys from Louisiana who went and played elsewhere and he brought back home. Joe Fouché, Greg Brooks, who were at Arkansas. Jark Bernard Converse was an all Big 12 cornerback at Oklahoma State. He's from Shreveport. He's coming to LSU, or he's at LSU now. I like what he did, but I have no idea how these guys are going to mesh together and play. It's not like you've built your roster in a certain way for 3 and 4 and 5 cycles, and now you have it, humming. It's just, let's see if we can field a good football team this year.
There is zero patience in college football.
Yeah.
Guys get fired after 3 years all the time. How much patience will LSU fans? What's the lead time that he gets here to get it going right?
Okay, so fans and administrators are two very different because LSU, this is little known, LSU gave Brian Kelly a $100 million contract over 10 years.
Fully guaranteed?
Fully.
Okay.
I mean, you're stuck. For better or worse, Brian Kelly is your coach for the next decade. So they committed to him. It's what they had to do to get him away from the situation he was in. They had to make that type of commitment. They did. So, and you have an athletic director that hired him, and Scott Woodward. So an athletic director is always going to be more patient with the guy he hires. We all know that, he or she hires. But I think from that end, Brian Kelly has tons of runway. Fan base, talk about back-to-back 500 seasons. People are already restless, but I think they're excited to see structure, which is in place right now.
So you and I were talking about Ole Miss a little while ago on your show, and you were asking, an 8-win season, how would that be received? How would an 8-win season be received in Baton Rouge this year?
People right now in July will go, man, look, after back-to-back 500 seasons, 8 wins would be pretty good, man. Let it get to a football Saturday and LSU gets dump trucked by Ole Miss again, they're going to want to run them out the building. I mean, it's so easy to say in July, but when you're in it, it never feels good when you take L's. And there's a lot of LSU fans who, in my opinion, have an unrealistic expectation of this team, that think this is a 10-win football team. And, I mean, I think you could make a case that LSU is as hard to figure out a team in college football. Like, I don't know how much you guys look at Vegas odds or whatever, but you can find win totals on LSU ranging from 6 to 8.5.
Yeah.
Like,
I can make an argument for from 5 to 9.
I can make the argument, but like, this is Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you might see a variance of like a half a game. Oh, they got them at 7.5. They got them at 8. But like 2.5 games is a massive chasm. It's just nobody knows really what to expect from a team that has a lot of players that have started football games just at a lot of different places that are all coming together in short order trying to make this thing work for a year.
LSU is a team that year in, year out, they have stars. Always superstar football players at LSU. Keyshawn Boutte is a star.
Yes.
Who else are stars for LSU this year?
One of the guys that's here today, B.J. Ojulari. I think he's a super fascinating guy, too, if you ever look into his background. Comes from Nigerian royalty. Like, amazing story. But he's a guy that –
There's a joke there about
I was going to say,
that email.
Yeah, the real kind, not the email you for money kind.
Right. Yes. Sorry, I lost that. I was on a completely different train of thought. But yes, he's never emailed me asking me for money or trying to give me money. But he was a double-digit tackle for loss guy, 7 sacks. LSU just wasn't good last year. And the defense was really bad for half a year, but he was really good. So I think a lot of people don't know that name yet that will this year. I think you're going to start to see him pop up in mock drafts. You are seeing him pop up in mock drafts in the first round. He wears number 8. He's just your speedy edge rusher. That's a guy that I think is a star and will be a first-round pick.
Who's playing quarterback?
Mason Smith also is the other one I should mention. Mason Smith on the defensive line. He wears 0. He's going to be special. But quarterback, I think it's going to be Jaden Daniels. Because are you smirking?
No, I'm not. Because if you ask me that, knowing far less than you do about LSU football, I would say I think it's going to be Miles Brennan.
Okay, so fans are really in two camps. You have the camp that's pulling for Miles Brennan because he's toughed it out for 6 years, right? He's to put this in perspective, Miles Brennan committed to Les Miles and Cam Cameron.
Wow,
that's how long he's been.
It's been a minute.
That's how long he's been here. Okay, so there's a lot of people that want his story to end. End well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are pulling for Garrett Nussmeier because he's the shiny new toy. I think if you're Brian Kelly, you need to go with stability. Like, who do I know the most about? And it's the guy that started 30 career games.